All right, so today on Thunder Lasers Customer Spotlight, we have Brittany from Design House by Brittany. How are you doing, Brittany?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Awesome. So you and I have spoke over the course of the last several years about lasers. So I'm excited to dive in with you a little bit more about your business, learn more about what you do. So if you could just start off by telling us what it is that you do in your business and a little about yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm Brittany, like you said. I started my business, I would say probably around 2018. And it wasn't until about 2020 that I took it full time. We were living in a different state, and I was actually a stationery designer by trade. So I did that for many years. So I was doing event decor on the side with a smaller laser at the time. And when my husband got a new job and we relocated, I decided to just try it full time. Felt super natural to me to go from wedding invitations to wedding day of pieces, just because it was like kind of the same realm that I had been working in for so long. And so I have been doing that ever since, making mainly event decor, I would say, but some smaller things on the side too.
Awesome. So what was the first kind of taste of lasers for you, and how did that transition to the Thunder?
So I think, like many people, I started seeing ads for the Glowforge, and it kind of sucked me in right away because um, they're really good at marketing. And I had never had a laser. I didn't know anyone that had a laser, but it just seemed like something that I could do and I wanted to do. I knew basically how day of pieces were made, and so I knew it would really open some doors for me if I got into it. And so I pulled the trigger, got the Glowforge, and it really opened the door for me to start my business and to figure out how to make signs, like exactly what I was doing and how to run a business. But like many others, I quickly outgrew it, and it wasn't doing what I needed it to do. I just wanted to make bigger things. I wanted to be able to make more faster. And so I just started looking around. I was like big on Instagram, Facebook, and I realized that all the makers that I really admired the most all had thunders. And I felt like they weren't trying to sell me anything. They really loved the product so much, and they were just telling me, all the good things about it. So I did my research and I ended up going with Thunder because I knew that it had the bed size that I wanted, it had all the capabilities that I needed. And I don't regret it at all. It was a great decision.
Perfect. So you went from the Glowforge, and what's the laser you have now?
So I have the 51-100, the Thunder Nova.
Awesome. So you went from something that was a desktop to something that was being like a car.
Yeah. Yes, and I was so excited. It came in, and then I became like so afraid. Like, what did I do? Because you know the dimensions, you measure it out. I have to put it in my garage, like many people, because it's so big. But it's not until you actually see it that you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't know how I'm gonna run this thing. So I let it sit in my garage for probably like 5 months
I love.
before I got the courage to actually turn it on. And so now when people get the Thunder, I tell them like, don't be like me. Don't be afraid to just turn on the machine because honestly, it's not scary once you do it for the first time. But I was just so intimidated to actually start using it. So you don't need to do that. It's actually really easy.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So you had mentioned that, like myself and many others, you started with your Glowforge, and then kind of shifted into the Thunder. What would be some, I guess, words of advice on picking your first laser for someone that might be looking right now?
Yeah, do your research, honestly, because it's really easy to kind of get sucked into all of the marketing. There are so many types of lasers out there now. So you're going to see like so much conflicting information and it's going to be overwhelming. But join Facebook groups, like talk to people that actually own machines. If you know anybody that has one, like ask to go and see it, see how it works. It's super important to figure out what you want to do with your laser first. So, like, if you know you want to cut acrylic, just look at CO2 machines. Like, you're not going to want anything else. Um, Look at the bed size for sure, because you might think that you only want to cut smaller things. And when you get started, you're really going to be limited. So I would say, like I've heard many others say, definitely get the machine that is like the highest budget, I guess, that you can afford. Like you're going to want to spend your money to get a good laser up front, because you don't want to end up having to upgrade it later on down the road, like I did.
Yeah. I often tell people to, and it's kind of hard in the moment, but to buy your second laser first,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
cry once instead of the two times around.
exactly, exactly. And like I got really sucked into the marketing, and I was like, "This is it. I don't even want to look at anything else. Like it looks so cool." Which was like such a mistake because it's a huge investment. So you want to make sure you know exactly what you're getting.
Sure. And I think, me being one of those people, having started out in that same realm, was, I don't want to say a victim to it because I do appreciate what it allowed me to start doing and learning. But once you really dive in and start to try to scale, it's not something that's scalable. It's very limited, not only in the size, the speed, but the software being cloud-based, have to have internet. You can't do anything on your own.
That's great.
That's one of the big things for me when I was trying to upgrade as well.
Mhm. And also, when I knew I wanted to upgrade, one of the top things on my list was good support because coming from a Glowforge, if you've ever needed support, you know that it's non-existent. Um, if anything goes wrong and you reach out to them via email, you're lucky if you hear back within a day, but most of the time I would hear back within 2 days. And because I knew it would take so long to actually hear from them, I would just put a list of everything that I've already tried so we can kind of just skip to what they need to help me with.
Sure.
And 9 times out of 10, they would email me back and say, "Hey, did you try this?" And it would be like number 1 or number 2 on my list. So I never got the help that I needed. And so I had to figure out a lot of things on my own
Yeah.
and like take that machine apart a few times. But with Thunder, I've had to reach out maybe twice, for little things. And I'm always so impressed. They get back to me within like 5 or 10 minutes. Like I swear someone's just like ready to answer emails at all times. And they've sent me videos, they've offered to call, like anything to help me out. So that was super important when looking for an upgraded laser, and the Thunder has it hands down.
I totally agree. And the support team at Thunder is amazing. Like you said, 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes you could do that, well after you would expect someone to be working, and they're still be
Exactly.
on.
Yep.
So many resources, like you mentioned, of videos and things that they can point you to. So for me, also was definitely, the service after, that support that you get. It's kind of hands above the rest.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said you do a lot of, event decor, so is this mainly acrylic that you're using, or do you use other substrates?
Yeah, I would say like 95% of the work that I do is with acrylic. It just kind of fell into it that way. It's not that I don't like working with other materials. Like I do work with wood and other things, leather. Um, but I just really fell in love with acrylic from the beginning. I love all the colors. I love the capabilities that it has. And I think when it comes to weddings, a lot of people nowadays, that's kind of just like the look that they're going for. And it's kind of expected, in my opinion, to have like acrylic signage. Um, so that's mainly what I use.
Gotcha. So there's a lot of people out there that may be listening that kinda do this as a side project or a side hustle that maybe wants to do it full time. Can you just talk a little bit about how you went from, working elsewhere to doing your own thing on your own every single day?
Yeah. For me, I was lucky in a lot of ways because my husband has a job that is able to support my whole family. So it was a lot lower pressure. It wasn't like I felt like I needed to hit a certain mark every month in order to survive, which I know a lot of people do. And it's like truly amazing that they're able to do that.
Mhm.
But for me, honestly, a lot of it was just luck. Um, just start making things, start posting them places. Um, Posting a lot really opened the door for me to working with other people. So I started off just on Etsy. I'm still just on Etsy right now, but I am finally having a website made, so I'll be somewhere else. Um, but when you're on Etsy, you're just selling to whoever sees you. But posting on Instagram really helped open the door to other stationers for me. So I have quite a few working relationships with stationers that need day of pieces made. And honestly, that has been so helpful to me in being busy and productive. It saves me so much time because I don't have to work with the customer directly. There's no like back and forth. So, like on Etsy or other platforms, when you're working directly with a customer, a lot of time goes into making proofs and going back and forth until you figure out exactly what they want. So the stationer kind of just like cuts corners for me and sends me what they need made. They send me the timeline. They send me exactly what materials they want. So honestly, that has been like really a great thing for me. And if I hadn't been just like posting constantly on Instagram, they wouldn't have been able to find me.
Sure. And I think that's one question that I get a lot, and I know a lot of other laser makers do as well, is where do you get your sales? And you mentioned Etsy, but also building those relationships with people, because there are so many different ways to make money. I think a lot of people sometimes get singularly focused on, I need to make a product and I need to find a customer. Sometimes it's easy as someone else has a customer and you can fulfill what their needs, just like you said. So, um, I do want to go back to Etsy real quick because a lot of people do talk about Etsy,
Yeah.
the ups, the downs. What have you found has been, the most successful things that you've been able to do on there? And any tips for anybody that maybe is trying to get into Etsy or is struggling?
Yeah. If you're looking to get into Etsy, just do it. So the payoff for Etsy is like starting in Etsy is like very low risk, in my opinion. It doesn't cost a lot of money. You're going to pay barely anything to get your items listed and seen. Um, and Etsy has just the viewership that you need. So if you make a website and you're just starting out, you're going to have a harder time getting customers to actually find you and see your website. You have to do a lot of marketing on your own. Etsy kind of does it for you because there's just people on it constantly looking for things. So even though there are a lot of other shops doing similar things, the chances of your work being seen are much higher, in my opinion. Um, Post a lot, like make a lot of items, list them, and then talk about it. Like if you don't talk about your business, no one is going to know about it. Like you can't just like hope that people find you on Etsy, which like sometimes they will. But like tell your friends, tell your family, post it on Facebook, like be annoying about it, post it everywhere because that's how people are going to see you. And I know Etsy definitely gets like a lot of bad rap, but for me, it's done way more good than bad. You just have to really be conscious about how you're listing your items and what you're listing them for. You have to understand all of the fees that go into it. You have to know like exactly what money you'll be taking home at the end of the day. Like, you don't want any surprises. Um, but whenever someone tells me that they're thinking about starting an Etsy, I tell them, just do it because it is honestly so easy to start. You can pause it whenever, um, and it's so low risk.
Sure. So, with all of the things that you sell on Etsy and elsewhere, custom projects, what would you say has been your just absolute favorite thing to make?
Oh, so hard. I think I really enjoy making bar signs, which I mean, they're so simple. And I've made hundreds of them. But for some reason, anytime an order comes in and I get to make a bar sign, it just like makes me happy for some reason. Just really enjoy making it.
Nice. Nice. So, as you move forward, do you have plans to um, bring in any other additional machinery? I mean, to complement your Thunder, or what's kind of next on the horizon for you in expanding your business?
So I did get a rotary, so that had been on my list for a long time. I got one. I just like haven't had the time or energy to like really sit and use it. I've like definitely made tumblers and other things with it. But like definitely the next thing is like use it more. I want to like start making products that I can list on Etsy and my website that are ready to go for brides, bachelorette parties, things like that. Um, and then like a long term, like a wish in the sky goal is to get a UV printer like everyone these days.
Yeah.
Um, every time you get a new machine, I feel like you're like, okay, like finally I have like everything that I need and I'm going to, make all of these great things. And then like you see somebody else that has something more. And you're like, oh my gosh, like I could do so much with that. Um, so like I engrave and hand paint every single sign that I make, which is fine. That's like how I've made my living and that's what I do and what I do best, I think. But I just think about like if I had a UV printer, how much easier and faster and like more things that I could make with it. Um, but of course, the price tag is nothing to blink at. So hopefully someday that's within reach because I would love to add that to my tool belt.
I agree. UV printer would be awesome, and they just go so well with lasers because you can print right on your acrylic and then take it to the laser, cut it out in the exact shapes that you need, ready to go. So, I definitely feel you there. I would love to have one as well. That would be a big shift, but, we can all dream and we can all push forward to get there someday.
Exactly.
So as you've kind of grown over time, what have you learned just over the years of possible things that you've done, whether that's niche down or, um, you know, drove home specific points to your customers? Have you stayed consistent? Have you found points where you've changed your business at all, completely, or how has that kind of went for you?
Yeah. So I'm actually one of those people I think that I don't think it's super important when you're starting out to like find a niche, find a niche. I know a lot of people say that. Um, for me at least, I think it was important to like try different things um and figure out exactly like what you're drawn to making. So I've fallen into the trap of like making things and like thinking like, oh, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna love making this and I list it and then I get a sale and then I'm like, um no, now I have to actually make it and I don't want to.
Sure.
Um and I quickly learned that, like, that's not worth it to me, like, if I'm dreading making an order, like, I don't wanna do it. So, like, I very quickly will remove the listing, even if it's, like, a good seller for me, because that's not, like, worth, like, the hassle. It's not worth, like, my mental health kind of anxiety over it. So I say like when you're starting out, especially, kind of just try everything and see what you like, and don't be afraid to like have a bunch of things on your site at once. Like it doesn't have to be just like one specific category, in my opinion. Just make a lot, see what you like selling, and then if you do fall into a niche, that's great. That can be your thing. But for me, even though I've like pretty much stayed consistent with event decor, I like making baby items. I like making cake toppers for birthdays. I like doing other things. And I'm not going to like let that stop me from also listing it on my Etsy. If I like making it, I will. So I think um, just try different things. That's really what you have to do.
I agree. I tend to be one of those people that, try everything as well, and give that knowledge out, whether it ends up being something that I wanna do in the future or not. I do like to share what I learned, and I know you do some of that as well. So what kind of things, have you done here in the past just, with your laser that, has been kind of educational on your channels that other people might wanna check out?
Honestly, everything. When I got my laser, I wasn't expecting to like kind of fall into the teaching side of things like I did. Um, it was just like so natural for me to just kind of go on Instagram and post stories, post tutorials, and just talk about what I was making, how I was making it, like tips and tricks along the way, anything like that. I just started blabbing to the internet because it was just like natural to me for some reason. Like if you knew me in person, I'm really shy. Like I'm not just going to seek talk to anyone. But like for some reason behind a screen by myself, it just like felt like something that I wanted to do. And also it was great because I could look back and like it was like a documentation of how far I'd come and I was sharing settings. So like if ever I needed to look back on my own stuff, I could.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the biggest thing that I wasn't expecting was that I was helping so many people along the way. Like I'd have people reach out to me and be like, I am so glad that you're posting this because a lot of people are gatekeeping this information. I don't know where to start. I don't know what kind of laser to get. I don't know my settings. So it made me really happy to know that people are watching and that it was actually helpful to people. Because I learned a lot when I got my first laser from other people. If people hadn't been talking about how they were doing things, it would have been a lot harder to figure it all out on my own. So I always appreciated the people that were open, and no shame to anyone that like actually wants to like keep all of their secrets to themselves, because I get it. Like you have to do a lot of trial and error, figure things out, find the products that work for you. It's a lot. I understand. But if I can just give somebody like a step in the right direction, I'd like to do that.
Absolutely. I agree with you there as well. I like looking back on my stuff as well because like you mentioned, you've got settings in there, how you did something, and you may have not done that for a year and you're like, I want to go back and I have that point of reference, whether that's on your socials or somewhere else that you can not only share with other people, but yourself. Because I've done that plenty of times where, I've done things one time and then all of a sudden it comes up again and I need to remember how to do it. And there it
Yep.
is.
It's great. It's like your own your diary almost of
Absolutely. And like you, before I kind of jumped into this and did social media, very reserved, I guess would be a better word for me is not antisocial, but I wouldn't, I didn't even like social media really. It wasn't something that I was on, but through building this and through teaching others, so very comfortable doing that now each and every day. You message me, I'll message you back. We can audio chat back and forth. So I love the conversations that I'm able to have, and I'm sure you do too. It's a great community within the whole laser space, and something that we can kind of hold dear. So as we kind of get towards wrapping things up, what would be one or two pieces of advice to somebody that is either already in this and looking to upgrade their laser, or somebody that is maybe just hasn't done it yet, what would be one piece of advice, whether that's the laser or in their business, that you would give to them?
So I think like kind of touched on it earlier, like do your research. Like if you don't have a laser, like you definitely want to get the laser that's right for you. If you're already in the business and you're kind of just looking for ways to expand, I think my biggest piece of advice is to make connections with other people. Like you were just saying, social media is a great way to meet other people in the laser community. And I think I wasn't prepared for how many like actual friends that I would make through this.
Really? Yeah.
And I do consider them friends because they've helped me so much. But you need to have at least one person that you can talk to, that you can have as a backup. I can't tell you, maybe like 3, 4, 5 times at least. Something has happened with my laser, and I've had orders that I need to fulfill. And I have had people that I've been able to easily reach out to and have them help me. Um, it's overwhelming if like you're doing this all by yourself. Like a lot of us are already working all day alone. So like to have like a sense of community and people that we can talk to and rely on, help back. I've had people come to my house many times
Yeah.
to use my laser. Whenever I can do it, I will. So just like make those connections, because um, it gives you a sense of community for one, friendship, but also I can't tell you the amount of times that I've had people in similar fields, like the wedding stationery, event decor field, that have referred clients to me because either they can't fulfill an order, it's not big enough for them, whatever the reason, they have passed my name along. And if I didn't have these connections, that would be business that wouldn't be coming my way.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. We can all kind of bounce things off each other when we need it. And like you said, there's something you can't fulfill or they can't fulfill, helping each other out. I know I've done that plenty where it's just like, I'm too busy to be able to do this, but I really want this person to be taken care of and not have to go search for somebody else and try to hand that off to someone else that you trust is great to be able to do.
Absolutely.
All right. So where can people find you, your socials, if they want to just reach out, have a question, or they want to learn from some of your videos?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Design House by Brittany. On Etsy, it's just Design House Brittany. And then I will be having a website coming soon. Um, You could email me, designhousebybrittany@gmail.com. But I think if you want to get in touch with me quickly, just send me a message on Instagram and I'll get back to you there.
Perfect. Well, that will wrap things up. Thank you so much for being part of the customer spotlight and being a Thunder partner.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good one.
Thanks.